Under the cover of night, two 5-year-old boys in jackets and backpacks were the only small figures moving in the quiet park, as if they were waiting for someone. Enjoy. Big Brother Augustus, do you think May and April are really going to come meet us? Little John asked his brother. Augustus nodded. Of course. I'm sure they'll come. It's been a few weeks since we last saw them, so I'm sure they'll come. You think they read the letter you sent Grandma, the one for May and April? John went on curiously. No, I'm sure they did, because I know Grandma would give it to them, Augustus answered quickly. Are you getting impatient, John? Don't worry, they'll come. We just have to wait. I'm just worried, big bro. What if Mum found out about our plan? What if she didn't let May and April leave the house, especially since it's nighttime? John, I'm sure May and April would also find a way to sneak out. I know they want to see us too, so let's just keep waiting. Okay. John pouted a little, but nodded at his twin and kept waiting with him for a few more minutes. It didn't take long before they spotted two little girls, also wearing jackets and backpacks, walking toward them. The boys were sure these were their twin sisters, the ones they'd been waiting for. Big Brother Augustus, Big Brother John. The two girls, May and April, shouted excitedly as they ran toward the boys, who had been there waiting. May, April, why are you only getting here now? John asked anxiously when they reached them. Sorry, Big Brother. It was a little hard to sneak past Mom, May answered. You're sure no one followed you? Augustus cut in, glancing back at the direction his sisters had come from to check if anyone was behind them. Both girls shook their heads. Don't worry, Big Brother Augustus. Nobody followed us, April said. Okay, good. Come on, let's go. We should get out of here before anyone sees us, Augustus said, taking the lead. The other three followed. The four of them were quadruplets. They were the children of a couple named Brian and Megan. But when their parents split up, the siblings were also separated. May and April went with their mother, while Augustus and John stayed with their father. The separation hit the kids hard, especially because they rarely got to see each other as siblings. Their chance to visit depended on the schedules and moods of their parents, and that made it very difficult for the quadruplets. So when their grandparents visited Augustus and June at Brian's house, the boys decided to send a letter through their grandmother, addressed to May and April. In it, they laid out their secret plan to meet. And now, that plan was happening. The four kids headed to a treehouse that had always been their hangout spot. There, they were finally all together again. They took off their backpacks, pulled out the food they had each brought, and shared everything while they talked and laughed. Meanwhile, back at Megan's house in a quiet American suburb, she was busy preparing dinner. May, April, dinner time, Megan called as she went to their bedroom. But she frowned when she didn't see them there. She searched the whole house. Mom, Dad, have you seen May and April? She asked her parents, who were already sitting in the dining area. They weren't in their room when I went to call them for dinner, and I've looked all over the house. I can't find them. Have you seen them? I thought they were in their room just a while ago, Megan's mother answered. That was enough to push Megan into a panic. She ran out of the house, repeatedly calling out her daughter's names as she went up and down the street. She disturbed their neighbors too, asking if anyone had seen the girls. No one had. Her heart started pounding faster as fear swallowed her. Worry squeezed her chest tighter and tighter. When she no longer knew what to do, Megan grabbed her cell phone from her pocket and called her ex-husband. Hello, Brian. April and May are missing, she said without any small talk, her voice already shaking. What do you mean, missing? May and April are missing. Brian reacted on the other end, his steps halting halfway up the stairs. I don't know. When I went to their room earlier, they weren't there. I already searched the whole house, even went to the neighbors, but no one has seen them, Megan explained, full of worry. What did you do this time, Megan? Did you yell at them again? Or not give them something they wanted so they ran off? Brian snapped. Megan's lips parted. She couldn't believe he was blaming her. Hold on, Brian. Really? You're blaming me? She shot back. Who else should I blame? The girls are in your care, and now they're gone, Brian said. He continued climbing the stairs and went to the boys' room. He looked around but didn't see his sons either. Instead of blaming me, could you maybe help me look for them? Megan said sharply. Please. We'll talk later. I'll call you back, Brian replied, then hung up on her. Nanny, Brian called as he hurried downstairs. Their housekeeper rushed over. Yes, sir. What's wrong? Where are Augustus and Jun? He asked. Aren't they in their room, sir? Before I came downstairs earlier, they were both there. They had just finished taking a bath and were already wearing their jackets. I thought you were all going out together, the housekeeper said. Hearing that, Brian frantically searched the house for the boys. When he couldn't find them, he called Megan back. Augustus and Jun are missing too. Nanny said they were dressed and wearing jackets earlier, so it looks like they left the house, Brian reported. What? Wait, are you saying all 4 of our kids ran away? Megan reacted on the other end. Wait for me, I'm coming over, Brian said. He rushed to the garage, jumped into his car and sped off. Did I hear that right? Our grandkids ran away. Megan's mom asked her outside the house, clearly shaken. It looks like that's what happened, Mom. Augustus and June are missing too, Megan replied sadly. Oh God, I hope nothing bad happens to my grandbabies, her mother murmured anxiously. What are we waiting for? Let's go look for the kids, Megan's father said, worried as well. Brian said he's coming here. Let's wait for him first, Megan said. A few minutes later, a car pulled up, and Megan hurried to meet it. Brian stepped out and immediately approached them. Come on, let's look for the kids, he said to his ex-wife. Megan nodded. We'll search too. We'll update each other if any of us finds them, her parents added, willing to help look for the quadruplets. Okay, Mom, Dad, please be careful, Megan said before getting into Brian's passenger seat. So what did you do this time? Why did Augustus and Jun leave too? She suddenly asked in the middle of the drive. Brian glanced at her before focusing on the road again. I didn't do anything, okay? He answered dryly. Really, Brian? Just admit you can't control them anymore because you've spoiled them too much, Megan retorted. Megan, is now really the time to blame each other? Our kids are missing. Can we just focus on finding them? Brian said, frowning. And who started blaming who first? Wasn't it you? Megan shot back, still hurt by his earlier words. Fine, sorry, okay? But you can't deny you share some blame too, since the girls slipped out under your watch, Brian insisted. Back at the treehouse, April took a sip of water from her pink tumbler and looked at her siblings. Was it really okay that we snuck out without telling Mom and Dad? What if they get mad at us? She asked nervously. I'm sure Dad won't be mad. He'll understand once we explain everything to him, Augustus answered. Mom will definitely be mad, but she shouldn't be. It's their fault we're doing this. If they hadn't split up, we'd still all be in one house and wouldn't have to run away just to see each other. Big brother Augustus is right. If anyone should be blamed, it's Mom and Dad, Jun added, agreeing with his brother. They're the ones who split us up, and sometimes won't even let us visit each other if they can't come along because they're too busy. But I still think they're really worried about us right now, May muttered quietly. Let's not think about them. Let's just play games, Jun said. He and Augustus pulled their cell phones and an iPad from their backpacks. What? You guys have cell phones and an iPad? May gasped. Didn't Mom say we're too young to have gadgets? She's just too strict, Jun said. Almost all kids our age already have gadgets. Dad bought them for us as soon as we told him we wanted them. Do you want us to ask him to buy some for you too? Don't worry, I'll tell Dad to get you both an iPad and a phone, so you won't get bored just reading books, writing or drawing all the time. At our age, books, writing and drawing are still better hobbies than gadgets, April argued. Gadgets and social media can affect our brains and influence us in bad ways. Don't believe everything Mom says. It's better if we learn how to use gadgets and social media while we're still young, Jun insisted. Anyway, enough talking about them. Let's just have fun. He and Augustus started teaching May and April how to use the iPad and cell phone. Megan and Brian had already been searching for almost 3 hours, and they still hadn't found their children. With every minute that passed, their fear and anxiety grew. Brian pulled the car over and got out with Megan. They started asking people around if they'd seen any kids who matched their quadruplets. Where could they have gone? I hope nothing bad happened to them, Megan said, collapsing onto a bench. She started calling everyone she knew, asking if anyone had seen the kids. No one had any information. She couldn't help it. Tears finally fell. She had no idea what to think anymore, especially knowing that all 4 of her children were missing late at night. Brian noticed her crying and walked over. Try not to think of the worst. We'll find them, he said softly, trying to comfort his ex-wife. I can't help it. I'm terrified, Brian. I don't want anything bad to happen to them. I don't know how you can stay so calm right now, Megan said, brows furrowed. You really think I'm not worried? Brian replied. Just like you, I have no idea what to think anymore. I just choose to stay calm because panicking, crying, and thinking all kinds of negative things won't help us. Megan was about to speak when her phone rang. She quickly answered. Hi, Mom. Do you have any news? Did you find my kids? She asked desperately. Not yet. But I think I know where they went, her mother replied. I remembered that when I visited Augustus and June yesterday, they gave me a letter to bring to May and April. Your father and I went back to the house to find it, and we read that they planned to meet at the tree house. I think that's where they are. As soon as Megan heard this, she ended the call and hurried back to the car. Brian looked puzzled, but followed and got in the driver's seat. What's going on? Did they find the kids? He asked quickly. Let's go to the treehouse, Megan said, the only answer she gave. Brian only needed a couple of seconds to put the pieces together. He immediately started the engine and drove, faster this time. You're sure the kids are there? He asked as he pulled up near the woods where the old treehouse was hidden. Mom said Augustus sent May and April a letter saying they would meet at the treehouse. I'm sure they're here, Megan said as she unbuckled her seatbelt and rushed out of the car. They ran along the familiar path toward the treehouse. When they saw the small light glowing inside it, their worry eased a little. Megan started climbing the wooden steps, but she misstepped and slipped. She lost her balance, and before she could hit the ground, Brian lunged forward and caught her. For a few seconds, they just stared at each other, both shocked. Megan's hands were on his shoulders, and his arms were wrapped around her waist. They stayed that way for several heartbeats before they quickly looked away and separated. Brian cleared his throat and scratched the back of his neck. Do you want me to help you up? He offered. No, I can handle myself, Megan answered stiffly. I'm just trying to help, and now you're being snippy. If you fall again, don't expect me to catch you, Brian muttered. Megan just glared at him before carefully climbing up the steps again. This time, she reached the treehouse safely. When she stepped inside, she let out a long sigh of relief. All four of their children were there, lying close together, fast asleep. Are they there? Brian called up from below, looking up at her. Megan didn't answer, so Brian decided to climb up himself. He stepped into the treehouse and saw Megan gazing down at the kids. He also sighed. I'm glad they're safe, Brian said quietly. Megan turned around and realized he was standing very close behind her, almost like he was embracing her. She swallowed. The distance between them suddenly felt very small. So, are you going to move? Or are we just going to stand here like this until the kids wake up? Brian whispered near her ear, his tone teasing. Megan quickly stepped forward and went to sit along one wall of the treehouse. A small smile tugged at the corner of Brian's lips before he sat beside her. They both watched their children sleep peacefully. In the quiet night, the only sounds came from crickets outside. I never thought they'd actually run away just so they could meet like this, Brian said, breaking the silence. They probably missed coming here together, Megan replied softly. This used to be our spot as a complete family. Silence settled over them again. After a while, Megan shivered. She wrapped her arms around herself against the chill. Brian noticed. Without a second thought, he slipped off his jacket and draped it over her shoulders. Megan didn't protest. She just gave him a quick sideways glance and then returned her gaze to the kids. It's been a long time since we all hung out here in the treehouse as a family, Brian said, remembering. I can't even remember when it was. You're right, Megan agreed. It's been a long time. A few moments later, their son Jun stirred and slowly woke up. Mom? Dad? What are you doing here? He asked, startled. Because of the noise Jun made, the other three kids woke up too. They all sat up and looked at their parents. Aren't we the ones who should be asking what you're all doing here at this hour? Megan replied, looking at each of them. It's late. Why did you sneak out without telling us? The quadruplets glanced at one another and fell quiet. Not long after, all four kids were sitting together in the back seat of Brian's car, unusually quiet, while Megan stared straight ahead, her face serious. Brian, just as serious, focused on driving back to Megan's house. Thank God you're all okay, Megan's mother said as soon as they arrived. She rushed to hug the kids. We were so worried about you. Grandma, Grandpa, Mommy, Daddy, we're sorry we worried you, May said, looking guilty. We promise we won't do it again. Why did you even think that was a good idea? Megan asked, her voice calm but firm. Don't you know how dangerous it is for kids your age to run off like that, especially at night? What if something bad had happened to you? What if you ran into someone dangerous? You have no idea how worried you made us. We only did it because we missed being together, all four of us, Jan answered honestly. And we were fine. Nothing bad happened. That still doesn't make it right, Megan said. Even if you're safe now, what if something had gone wrong? Haven't I always told you never to go anywhere without us and never to leave without telling us? Please don't be mad at us, Mommy, Augustus suddenly said, his voice raising slightly. We wouldn't have done it if you hadn't split us up. At least Dad understands why we did it. He doesn't yell at us about it because he knows how we feel. Everyone froze, especially Megan, who was stunned into silence. Augustus, Megan's mother said gently but firmly, stepping in. Your mom is just worried about you because what you did, running away like that, really was wrong. But it's also not right for you to talk back to her like that or raise your voice. Augustus only pouted, then stomped off upstairs. His three siblings quickly followed him. So that's what you want, huh? To make me look like the villain in front of the kids? Megan asked Brian bitterly once the kids were gone. And now I'm the one to blame, Brian said. It's not my fault. I'm trying to understand them and avoid yelling so they don't rebel more or feel worse. You're the one who scolded them. So you're saying I was wrong to discipline them? Megan shot back. You being too lenient is the reason they think what they did was okay. That's enough. You two need to stop, Megan's mother intervened, stepping between them. You're both tired, and the kids put you through a lot tonight. Go get some rest. Arguing isn't helping anyone. Megan let out a long sigh, glared at Brian one last time, and walked away. Brian just shook his head. Later, when Megan checked on the children, she saw Augustus and Jan asleep together on one bed and May and April on another. She walked over to fix their blankets and gently kissed each of them on the forehead before leaving the room. Only then did she realize she was still wearing Brian's jacket. She stepped out of her room and went to the living room, where she found Brian asleep on the couch. She got a blanket and carefully tucked it over him. The next morning, Megan got up early to prepare breakfast. When Brian woke up, everything was already set on the table. Megan called her parents and the kids downstairs so they could all eat together. Did you all sleep well last night, grandkids? Megan's mum asked with a warm smile. The quadruplets nodded together. We slept really well, Grandma, especially because we're with May and April again, Augustus said with a wide grin. Kids, I'm sorry I scolded you last night, Megan said. I was just really worried. We understand, Mommy, Augustus replied. I'm sorry too for talking back to you. His apology made Megan smile. After a few minutes of cheerful eating, Brian cleared his throat. Megan, school enrollment is coming up soon, he said. If you're not available on enrollment day, I can enroll the kids myself. Don't tell me you're still insisting on sending them to private school, Megan replied, raising an eyebrow. What's wrong with that? And don't tell me you're still insisting on sending them to public school, Brian countered. That's where they should go, Megan said firmly. Why public school? Brian asked. We can afford to send them to private school. And honestly, I'm not sure about their safety and the quality of education in a public school. Brian, I want them to learn how to live simply and have a normal childhood, Megan explained. They can only experience that in public school. In private school, most kids are spoiled brats. And don't underestimate public education. Sometimes quality isn't about fancy facilities or high tuition. That's your problem, Megan. You make decisions based only on what you believe, without thinking of what might actually be best for the kids, Brian said. Please don't make it sound like I'm the selfish one, Megan snapped, dropping her fork and knife loudly onto her plate, startling everyone. I'm thinking about our kids' welfare too. If you two want to fight, can you not do it at the table? Her mother said sharply. The kids are here. The food is here. You're not children anymore. Learn to pick the right place and time for your arguments. I'm sorry, Mom, Brian said immediately. Megan stayed silent. After breakfast, the kids gathered in the living room to play while their grandparents watched them with smiles on their faces. Brian stayed behind in the dining area to help Megan clean up. When they were done, they joined everyone in the living room and smiled at how happy their children looked. But Megan's mood suddenly changed when she saw Augustus and June pull out their iPad and phones. "Hold on, what's that? Why did you buy them gadgets?" she asked Brian. "What's so bad about that?" Brian replied. "Are you planning to forbid them from having everything? How do you want to raise them? Do you really want to deprive them of things we can easily give them?" "That's not the point, Brian. I just don't want them exposed too early to gadgets and social media," Megan said. "You know those things can have negative effects on them. They're still kids. They should be enjoying life in ways that suit their age." "Is that so hard to understand?" Brian let out a deep sigh and looked her in the eye. "Look, I'm just doing what I can to make them happy," he said. "I don't know what else to do. It feels like everything I do is wrong to you, when all I want is for them to be happy, free, and to enjoy a comfortable life." "You still don't understand me, do you, Brian?" Megan said softly but bitterly. "You were born into comfort. Everything you wanted was handed to you. You don't know what it's like otherwise." Brian was about to argue when he noticed Megan's parents watching them seriously from the side. He stopped talking. Before the tension could rise again, a small voice cut through. "My teammate is so dumb and stupid," Jun blurted out while playing on his iPad, clearly annoyed at his online game. The adults snapped their heads toward him, shocked. "Jun, where did you learn those bad words?" Megan asked, stunned. "Sorry," June said quickly, clapping a hand over his mouth. Megan closed her eyes tightly. Her anger toward Brian surged again. She grabbed his arm and dragged him into the kitchen. "See what you've done?" she hissed. "Because you exposed them to gadgets so soon, they're learning all sorts of things. Not just that, they're talking back to me now, which they never used to do. Augustus and June were never like this before. If I'd known this was what your parenting would do to them, I would have taken them with me and never left them here." "Maybe we should have this conversation when you've calmed down," Brian said quietly. Then he turned away, called Augustus and Jun, and took them home. "May, April, don't worry. Next time we're together, we'll play again," Augustus told his sisters as he said goodbye. "Okay, big brother. Please be careful going home," May replied. After they left, Megan went back inside. She invited May and April to play in the garden, so her parents stayed in the living room while the girls went out. Later, Megan's mother called her aside. "Megan, as your mom, I want to give you some advice," she said gently. "I know you and your husband—" "Ex-husband," Megan corrected immediately. "Well, technically you're still married on paper, so you're still legally husband and wife," her mother said. "Anyway, I know you and Brian have very different ideas about how to raise your children. I understand that as a parent myself, but sometimes you both need to listen to each other. More importantly, you need to listen to the kids. Right now, it's just you and Brian making decisions, and look at the result. You separated, and who was most affected? The children. Then you fight in front of them." Megan stared at her quietly. "Because of the decisions you and Brian made, the siblings were split up," her mum continued. "As kids, all they really want is for all of you to be together. That's what would make them happiest." "What are you implying, Mom? That Brian and I should get back together?" Megan asked incredulously. "You really think that's the solution? Seriously?" "I'm saying that if there's still something left to fix, the two of you should at least try to talk it out," her mother answered. "If it truly can't be fixed, that's another story. But you won't know unless you really try." "How can we talk properly when he's like this?" Megan said defensively. "You've seen how his parenting affects my kids. Even if I push for what I think is right, he just pushes back with what he wants." Back at Brian's house, he sat the boys down. "By the way, Jun," he said gently, "where did you learn those bad words you used earlier?" "From my teammates online, Daddy," Jun replied, "and I hear them a lot in the videos and clips I watch. They're just expressions, so it's not a big deal." "Actually, it is a big deal," Brian said. "It's not right for you to use bad words. Here's the deal. Promise me you won't use any bad words again, and you'll never raise your voice at your mum. If you do that, I'll let you go visit them tomorrow. What do you think?" "Deal, Daddy," the twins said quickly in unison. "I promise I won't raise my voice at Mommy again," Augustus added. "And I promise I'll avoid saying bad words," Jun said. Brian smiled at their quick responses. The next day, the boys were excited. As soon as they arrived at Megan's house, Augustus and Jun went straight to May and April's room. Big brother John, big brother Augustus, you're here, May exclaimed. Dad let you come visit. Augustus nodded. Yeah, he let us come, as long as I don't raise my voice at Mom anymore and John stops using bad words. But May, April, there's something I want to ask you. Do you still want Mom and Dad to get back together? May and April both nodded immediately. Of course, April said. I always pray that someday our family will be whole again, all of us living in one house. It makes me sad whenever I see them fight. We want that too, Augustus said. We want our family to be complete again. But how are we going to do that? May asked. It seems like Mom and Dad hate each other now. June suddenly stood up and peeked outside the bedroom. When he saw no one nearby, he quietly closed the door again and returned to the bed where the four of them sat together. So what's your plan, big bro? May asked curiously. A mischievous grin slowly appeared on John's lips as he began explaining the plan he'd been thinking about. A few days later, May and April asked their mother if they could visit their dad's house. Megan had no choice but to agree and accompanied them there. When they stepped into Brian's house, the quadruplets happily ran to each other and hugged tightly. Megan looked around the house. It had been a while since she'd been there. After a few seconds, confusion crossed her face when she saw Brian coming toward them, with another woman. Hi, I'm Dea, the woman said politely to Megan. I don't know if you remember me, but we met before you and Brian got married. I wasn't able to attend your wedding because I was in the States. And now I'm back. It's just sad to hear that you and Brian are separated now. What are you doing here? Megan blurted, unable to stop herself. Even if she and Brian were separated, this house was still technically their marital home. I'm just visiting. Brian wanted me to meet the kids, Dea said, but Brian spoke up to confirm it. Megan didn't respond. Instead, she focused on the children. But she couldn't help feeling irritated as the day went on. It was obvious how quickly the kids were getting close to Dea, and she noticed how often Dea stood near Brian or spoke to him. The next day, Brian and the boys visited Megan's house where they found another guest, a man. I didn't know you were still this good at drawing, the man, Kian, complimented Megan as they sat at the table sketching with May and April. John and Augustus were also trying to draw, while Brian sat on the sofa, pretending to scroll through his phone, stealing glances at them every now and then. And you're still better. That's why you became an architect, Megan replied, smiling at her friend. Brian clenched his jaw and looked over at them, clearly bothered. After a while, Kian said his goodbyes and left. Megan had barely sat down when her phone chimed. She frowned when she saw the text message from Brian. It asked her to come to the kitchen. What's this about? Why did you text me to come in here? Megan asked as she walked in. What was that all about? Brian demanded. What? Megan asked, confused. What are you talking about? That guy, Kian. Why was he here? Since when has he been visiting you? Brian asked, his voice serious, his hands in his pockets. And what's wrong with him visiting? He's my friend. Today was the first time he came over, and he just wanted to catch up, Megan answered. I didn't know you were inviting other men to the house, Brian said quietly. Megan's eyes widened. She heard the accusation under his words. Excuse me. What exactly is it to you if I invite another man over? He's just my friend and nothing more. We're separated, remember? She said. You're the one who brought another woman into our house first. So you're getting back at me now. That's why you brought that guy here, to make me jealous. Brian's gaze narrowed. And why would I do that? Megan shot back. Because you're jealous, Brian replied. Megan froze, caught off guard. You're not saying anything, so that means you are jealous, he said with a smirk. I am not jealous, she snapped. Just admit you're jealous of Dea. You had Kian come here to make me jealous too, Brian insisted. Megan sighed in frustration. Whatever you say, I am not jealous, and I didn't ask Kian to come here just to make you jealous. For one thing, I didn't even know he was going to stop by. You know what your problem is? You're too full of yourself. That's why you think of all this nonsense. With that, Megan turned and left him in the kitchen. Days passed, and fate had another surprise. Megan and Brian unexpectedly ran into Dea and Brian's group at a mall. The kids had insisted on going to the mall, and Megan had brought Kian along too. Megan, what a small world, Dea said brightly when they ran into each other. Are you here to hang out too? The former spouses exchanged a brief glance before Brian's gaze hardened at the sight of Kian by Megan's side. He sighed quietly, clearly unhappy. The kids suddenly wanted to go to the mall. I couldn't say no, and I asked my friend to come with us, Megan explained. Same here. The kids wanted to go out, so we brought them, Dea replied. You know what? We should all just hang out together. Have you eaten? If not, let's all eat. Megan looked at her children, who were clearly thrilled at the idea. They all went to a restaurant. From the beginning of the meal, Brian barely spoke and seemed to be in a sour mood. Mom, Dad, we're just going to the restroom. The line here is really long, Jun said a little later. Megan looked toward the restrooms and saw that there really was a long line. Okay, but come right back, she said. The quadruplets left the restaurant and headed toward the restroom area. But outside, instead of getting in line, they huddled together like they were holding a meeting. Do you think our plan is working? April whispered. I think it is, Augustus replied. Haven't you noticed? Dad's in a bad mood today, and I'm sure it's because he's jealous that Mom is with Mr. Kian. Is Mom jealous of Miss Dea? April wondered. I'm pretty sure she is, Jun said confidently. I searched online before for how to tell if someone is jealous, and I saw those same signs in Mom. Do you think there's still a chance Mom and Dad will get back together? May asked. Don't lose hope, Augustus said. I think our plan will work, and I've got one more idea up my sleeve. Just focus on believing that someday Mom and Dad will get back together. Okay? The others nodded. After their little strategy session, they went back to the restaurant. Their food had just arrived, so everyone started eating. By the way, June said, opening a new topic, my siblings and I were talking about going to the park for a picnic, since it's been so long since we've done that. Mom, Dad, is it okay if we all do that? With Mr. Kian and Miss Dea too? That's a great idea, Kian said immediately. I was actually thinking about suggesting that. Let's do it. Same here, Dea added. Just tell me when and I'm in. The kids looked at Megan. Sure, it's fine with me, Megan said, forcing a smile. How about you, Brian? You in? Dea asked. Brian stayed silent. Several seconds passed and he still didn't answer, so Augustus spoke up for him. Of course, Dad's in. He's totally game, Augustus said enthusiastically. Brian wanted to protest, but in the end kept quiet and went along with it. After they finished eating, everyone headed home. A few days later, the much-awaited picnic day arrived. They spread a blanket on the grass at a big park with all sorts of food around them. Megan happily took selfies with the kids when Kian offered to take photos of them instead. She and the kids stood up and stepped back, posing while Kian took their pictures with a camera. Your ex-wife and her friend look really close, Dea commented to Brian as they watched. How long have they known each other? They've been friends since high school, Brian answered with little enthusiasm, his face dark. Just from my observation, Dea went on, I think Kian really likes Megan. It's obvious from the way he looks at her. Just watch him. Brian's mood soured further. He suddenly stood up and walked over. I'll take pictures of my wife and kids, he said curtly, grabbing the camera from Kian's hands and giving him a little shove. Do you have a problem with me? Kian asked, clearly irritated. I don't have a problem with you, unless you do with me, Brian said coolly. Don't deny it. It's obvious you have a problem with me. Why? Because Megan and I are getting close again. Is that what's bothering you? Kian shot back. Brian's eyes narrowed into slits, his glare icy. Megan and the kids stared in confusion. They had no idea what was going on until Brian suddenly punched Kian. Brian, what are you doing? Why are you hitting him? Megan cried, rushing over with the kids. Wow. So you're taking his side instead of mine, Brian said bitterly. Am I always going to be the bad guy to you, Megan? And who else should I side with? You? You're the one who threw a punch. He didn't even do anything to you, Megan said, hurt and angry. If you were in a bad mood, you shouldn't have come. That way you wouldn't be dumping your attitude on everyone. I wanted today to be a happy day for the kids, but I guess you just had to ruin it. Brian clenched his jaw. Do you want this day to be happy for the kids, or for yourself? He shot back. You think I don't notice how much you're enjoying yourself flirting with that guy? Megan froze. His words hit her straight in the heart. She couldn't even speak. They hurt more than she expected. Brian turned and walked away. Megan looked up at the bright sky to stop her tears from falling. Mom, what happened? Why did Dad leave? May asked innocently as the four children walked over. Did you fight again? Megan forced a smile for her kids' sake. Your dad just lost his temper a bit, she explained. He and Kian had a little argument, and yes, we also raised our voices. But don't worry, it's nothing too serious. He'll come back later. They stayed at their spot until afternoon turned into evening. But Brian did not return. Mom, why hasn't Dad come back yet? Was the fight really that bad? Jun asked, frowning. Megan's heart ached. She didn't know how to answer. You're always fighting, April said sadly. We'll just go play while we wait for Dad, okay? Just don't go too far, Megan said. She watched them play nearby, noticing how low energy they seemed. She knew they'd been affected by the fight. Megan, I'm sorry. I think this is my fault, Kian said as he joined her. Maybe if I hadn't provoked Brian earlier, you wouldn't have fought like that. Don't blame yourself, Megan said gently. This isn't your fault. Even when we were still together, Brian and I fought a lot. When night fell, they started packing up. Dea looked toward where the kids had been playing and was startled. Where are the kids? She asked. The others looked and realized the children weren't there anymore. Megan's heart leaped into her throat. She ran, calling their names and searching the area. Panic flooded her when she couldn't find them. At that moment, Brian finally came back. Brian, the kids are missing, Dea said immediately. Brian's eyes widened. He met Megan's gaze, but she quickly looked away, her face already filled with fear and worry. What happened? How did our kids disappear? Brian asked. They were sad because you two fought again, and you left, Dea explained. They were just playing over there, but they suddenly vanished. I think they were really affected by everything going on. Let's just focus on finding them. Kian and I will search in one direction. She grabbed Kian's arm and hurried off. Megan and Brian were left alone, both feeling awkward and guilty. Megan started walking, and Brian fell into step beside her. After a few minutes of silence, Brian stopped. I'm sorry, he said. Megan froze when she heard his voice. This is my fault, he admitted. I couldn't control myself earlier. I was impulsive and let my jealousy get the best of me. I just hate seeing you happy with another man. I want to apologize for the things I said too. I shouldn't have said them. I'm really sorry, Megan. I admit it. I'm jealous. Megan swallowed and slowly turned to face him. Their eyes met. I was hurt by what you said, she confessed. All I've ever thought about is what's best for the kids. And yes, I'm jealous of you and Dea too. She looked away, embarrassed by her own admission. But you were still wrong to think that I was trying to get even by using Kian to make you jealous, she added quietly. A small smile appeared on Brian's lips as he stepped closer. I still feel guilty for every painful word I said, he told her. I know I hurt you. Next time, I'll really try to control my temper. Don't worry about it, Megan said. We all say things we don't mean when we're angry or hurt. What I don't understand is, why are we still jealous of each other when we're already separated? Yeah, we're separated, Brian said, but that doesn't mean our feelings just disappeared. We broke up because we couldn't stop arguing about the kids, not because we stopped loving each other. I still love you, and I think you still love me too. He took a breath. So I'm thinking, why don't we try again? Let's try to fix this. Let's try to really understand each other this time. We made a lot of impulsive decisions before, but now I'm willing to fix things. I'm willing to understand you. I'm willing to be your husband again. If you'll let me, can we be husband and wife again? For a moment, it felt like the world stopped moving around them. The only thing that existed was the two of them, standing there under the cool night air. Megan blinked several times and swallowed, then finally opened her mouth to speak. Yes, Brian, she said softly but firmly. I'm willing to be your wife again. Brian's smile spread slowly, warmly. He kissed her forehead and pulled her into a tight embrace. They held each other, savoring the moment as husband and wife once again. A few minutes later, there was a soft sound behind them. Ahem. They broke apart and turned to see Dea and Kian nearby, clearly having been there long enough to overhear everything. I think you two are good now, Dea said with a teasing smile. Megan and Brian looked at them with mixed surprise and embarrassment. Actually, we've been following you for a while, Dea admitted. I'm happy you two got back together, and I think it's time you knew the truth. The truth? Megan repeated, confused. The truth is, Daya began, this whole thing was planned by your kids. They wanted you to make up and get back together, so they asked us for help. One day, Augustus called me using his dad's phone, she explained. He asked if I could help them with their plan. Of course, I couldn't say no. They even asked me to burn those annulment papers he was talking about. Kian laughed and nodded. Same here, he said. May called me on your phone, Megan. She asked for my help too. They wanted to make both of you jealous so you'd realize your feelings for each other and eventually get back together. The couple stood there in shock, trying to process what they'd just heard. Who would have thought their kids were the masterminds behind everything? I was once a wife too, Daya went on. I got divorced. So let me give you some advice as someone who's been through it. There will always be times when you don't agree. But in the end, you might realize that you're still each other's home. Think about your children. If you have misunderstandings, talk them through. Almost everything can be resolved if you talk it out. Don't forget the vows you made when you got married. That's what I regret. I let my emotions and impulsive decisions end my marriage. Megan and Brian gave her grateful smiles. I don't have any experience as a spouse yet, Kian added with a grin, but as a friend, I just want your family to be happy. Megan's eyes filled with tears. I don't know what to say, she admitted. Honestly, I'm still shocked, and it hasn't fully sunk in yet, but I want to thank both of you so much. I hope you both find happiness too. Anyway, Daya said, I know you're worried about the kids, but don't be. They told us they were going back to the treehouse. That's where you'll find them. They said their goodbyes and left. At the treehouse, the four kids sat side by side while Augustus held his phone, waiting for an update from Daya. It didn't take long before a message came in. He read it quickly and his face lit up. Miss Daya says Mom and Dad got back together, he announced. Really? Yes, Jun shouted, jumping up. The siblings all started bouncing around in excitement. That means our plan worked, June said happily. Now we won't be separated again. We'll all live together. Our family will be whole again. And I hope Mom and Dad don't fight anymore, April added quietly. A few moments later, Megan and Brian arrived at the treehouse, both smiling. Mom, Dad, we're so happy you're back together, April said with a big grin. Please don't fight anymore, and please never ever separate again, so our family will always stay whole. Kids, I'm sorry, Megan said softly. I'm sorry we didn't realize how much our decisions were hurting you. But we really appreciate what you did. We love you all so much, and all we want is what's best for you. I hope you can forgive us for the wrong choices we've made. It's my fault too, Brian said. I didn't think enough about which things might help you and which might hurt you. I just did what I wanted. From now on, I'll try harder to understand your mom. As the father of this family, it's my responsibility to make you happy. And I promise I will never take my anger out on your mom again. I'm at fault as well, Megan admitted. I didn't always think about what you wanted, especially when that might have been best for you. Kids, I'm sorry for being too strict. I just want to protect you. Mom, Dad, we understand, Jun said. We're not mad at you. We know you both care about us. All we really wanted was for you to make up, and for our family to be whole again. The house has been so sad ever since you left with May and April. The couple smiled and pulled their children into a tight group hug. That night, they all stayed in the treehouse together as one complete family. When the sun rose the next day, they wasted no time. Megan, May, and April packed their things and moved back into the house with Brian, Augustus, and June. Megan's parents were overjoyed when they learned that Megan and Brian had reconciled. After a shower, Megan stepped out of the bathroom, and Brian immediately hugged her from behind. I missed you so much, my wife, he said. Ever since you came back, it feels like this house is alive again. I can't deal with you not being here. I pretended I could, but I know I failed you in many ways as a husband. I missed you too, Megan answered, hugging him back. It feels so good to be home again and to have our family back together. I hope we never separate again. Brian pulled back slightly and started peppering her face with light kisses, making her giggle. I missed everything about you, he teased. Well, except our arguments. They both laughed. A few days later, school enrollment was just around the corner, so they gathered in the living room to finally decide where the quadruplets would study. Enrollment starts in a few days, Brian said, sitting beside Megan on the couch. The four kids sat across from them. We need to decide where you're going to enroll. We don't want you split up again. Sorry, honey, but I really want them to experience public school, Megan said. She clearly wasn't changing her mind. As much as I'd like to enroll them in private school, Brian said with a small smile, I respect your decision. I realized you wouldn't be insisting on public school if you didn't believe it was good for them. So I'm okay with them going to public school. Megan's smile widened. Overjoyed, she hugged him tightly. Then they turned to their kids. Of course, it's not just your dad and me who should decide, Megan said. We want to know what you want too. April and I want to go to public school, May answered. We want to experience the things Mom tells us about. How about you two? Megan asked Augustus and June. Honestly, we used to want to go to private school, Augustus said. Megan's smile faded. She glanced at Brian. But that was before, Jun added quickly. Now we want to go to public school too, so we can be with May and April. Wherever they want to study, that's where we'll enroll. We're their big brothers. We have to sacrifice sometimes. We can't be separated again because Augustus and I have to look after them. His words moved both parents deeply. Then public school it is, for all four of you, Brian declared. Oh, and by the way, Megan added, I already submitted my resignation to my boss. You resigned? Brian asked. Megan nodded. I want to focus on being here at home so I can really take care of you and the kids. Their hearts were full. Brian put his arm around her shoulders while they watched the quadruplets chatter excitedly about school. A month passed and the kids enjoyed public school. They made lots of new friends. Soon the whole family found themselves in a hotel ballroom. Megan's father had planned a surprise second proposal for her mother. As he knelt down and renewed his vows, Megan's mom became emotional and gave a heartfelt speech about love and commitment. Megan was overjoyed for her parents. Even after so many years together, their love was still strong. I hope we end up like Mom and Dad, Megan whispered to Brian, glancing at him lovingly. Still together when we're old, hopefully with grandkids of our own already. Brian took a sip of wine and smiled back at her. That's definitely going to happen, he said. You really think I'd ever let you go again? If you want, I can marry you as many times as you like. Megan's cheeks flushed red. Soon, slow romantic music began to play, drawing couples to the dance floor. Come on, let's dance, Brian said, standing and offering his hand. Megan smiled, took his hand and joined him. He rested his hands on her waist while hers settled on his shoulders. They swayed gently to the music. Remember our first dance? Brian asked. Of course I do, Megan laughed softly. At our wedding reception, when the power went out and all the lights died. We ended up sneaking away because you couldn't wait to have me to yourself. And that's how we ended up with quadruplets. Brian chuckled and nodded. I'm so proud of you, he said. You carried our 4 babies and brought them into the world safely, even through all the pain. Every time I remember that, I realize just how important you are to me. That's why I'm sorry for fighting you about parenting. You're their mother. You carried them. You know what's best for them. He sighed. I regret letting my pride get in the way and arguing just to force my own way. That's not what a good husband does. I understand you, Brian, Megan said softly. So let's just forget those fights. What matters is now. I'm happy our family is whole again. I promise I'll be a better wife and mum too. They smiled at each other, eyes locked. Slowly, their lips met in a tender kiss, right there in the middle of the dance floor. Even though people surrounded them, it felt like they were the only two in the room. The guests smiled as they watched. The love between Megan and Brian gave everyone around them a sense of hope and happiness. Their family had been tested by misunderstandings, clashing parenting styles, and hurt feelings. But in the end, they learned to consider what was right and what wasn't, to understand each other's intentions, and to put their children first. That's what brought them back together. Healthy communication turned out to be the key. In any relationship, especially in a family, it's crucial. A family can be a powerful source of strength when facing life's challenges. And that is where the love story of Megan and Brian comes to a close. Thank you for listening.